And here we go. How's it going, everybody? It's Ian here from Kicking the Seat, and we are back with another edition of Don't Read the Comments, and we're doing it live here on YouTube. And we're also going to be celebrating a milestone, the 5,000 subscriber milestone, right here on YouTube. So a little disheveled. It's been quite a Sunday, so I apologize. I'm rushing in here. I'm a little, I'm not the most put together as I could be for such an auspicious occasion. I am, in fact, drinking a Starbucks. It's pink, and I think it's got chunks of candy in it or something. I don't know what's going on here. It's a cherry latte. This is not an endorsement. It's just an explanation, because I usually have my nice big black coffee cup, but, I need a little sugar boost today. So swung by the old Starbies, as they call it. Anyway, what we're going to be doing here, for those who are new to the channel or have not seen this particular feature, we are going to read some viewer mail, as it were. Now, I had intended at the start of this year, the last time we did one of these things was late January, I was going to do a monthly mailbag, but the year has gotten away from me. I can't believe we're almost in May, for crying out loud. So what I'm going to do is go through the comments that you have sent in through YouTube or kickseat.com or the Facebook page, whatever, and mostly from YouTube, honestly, because I was combing through the comments for the last several months, and I've cherry picked some of the most colorful ones, the good, the bad, and the ugly, as it were. And we're going to go through those and respond, because I don't always have time to sit down and reply in person beyond just like the little heart icon or "that's great, thanks for watching." Some of these things I want to get a little bit more in depth on, because you took the time to comment, so you deserve a response. So we're going to do that, and also going to say some special thanks towards the end to the people who've helped me achieve this 5,000 subscriber milestone, including, I imagine, some of you. So without further ado, let's get to it. I'm going to fire up the handy dandy PDF here, and we'll talk about it. So hold on, I didn't mean to start there. Let's start here. This one was actually supposed to be in the last Don't Read the Comments, but it dropped off for some reason. It relates to a conversation I had with Armand White quite a while ago, from our Birth of Intolerance episode, in which we talked about the D.W. Griffith films Birth of the Nation and Intolerance, a double feature that I highly recommend, and also a commentary, an episode I highly recommend. But it said, "Had to stop and laugh when Ian mentioned his African-American heritage." Now, VF Town, I don't know if you were laughing because you think, why is this white guy claiming to have African-American heritage, or what the context was, because this episode was quite a while ago. But I can just say, yes, for those who haven't heard me talk about this, and I can't imagine who hasn't at this point, I am, in fact, you wouldn't know by the looks of me, but I am half black, as they say, a mixed race kid. So yes, that's genuine. It's for real. So I hope that's not funny. If it is, I don't know what to tell you, but that's the truth. Sometimes the truth is hilarious. Let's see. Next, there we go. Now, this one is funny because this comes from not an indie scene episode that Sujua Ekanaik and I did on Inland Empire, the David Lynch film, but from a YouTube short that I put up talking about my distaste for David Lynch films. I entitled this short "Putting a Pin in Lynch," which, considering we recently lost the director, the title has not aged well, but and neither has the take, apparently. So this person says, quoting me, "I kind of get the Lynchian thing," but then proceeds to explain how he does, in fact, not get the Lynchian thing whatsoever. Now, I'll admit that I've not seen all of David Lynch's movies. I would say that I'm 50-50 on what I have seen. So some of the stuff that I've seen that I've loved, some of it I think is incomprehensible nonsense, which would include Inland Empire, a film that I frankly struggled through, but which, I bought the Blu-ray. It is sitting upstairs in my media cabinet. But I could not, I couldn't do it. I did it. I watched it. I talked about it with Sujua. And I think if you watch the greater conversation, you'll get more out of it in terms of my perception of the film, my ideas around it, or my ideas around my perception, I have to say, than the 30-second clip that is perhaps not the most flattering. And don't worry, we're going to come back to this one, because there were a lot of comments on this clip, especially after Mr. Lynch's passing. Next up, again, who is this guy? I'm me. What can I say? Tony Who 7 UK. But that's all I can say. This was from the Maxine episode that we did last year, reviewing the third in Ty West's trilogy, which started with X and then went to Pearl and then ended with Maxine, a trilogy that, had he not completely, in my not so humble opinion, dropped the ball on that third installment, would have been one of the great movie trilogies. I love X. I love Pearl. I was kicking myself because I hadn't seen either of those two films in the theater when they came out. So I thought, I'm going to go see Maxine. I'm not going to miss this opportunity. And unfortunately, I picked the exact wrong one of the three to go see it. But G Boney 66 says, agree with Ian and Jeff. This film was a total letdown and the fakest 1980s Hollywood story I've ever seen. That's quite a non-endorsement there, Jaboni. So I'm glad we're on the same page, at least there. Back to David Lynch and Inland Empire. Low IQ take. Point taken. This one is from Flight Risk, which I talked about with David Fowley earlier this year. Flight Risk is, I can't remember exactly what I tweeted out, but it's something like a D+ movie, but an A+ movie going experience, something to that effect, because David and I saw it in 4DX, which if you have the opportunity to catch this movie or any movie in the 4DX experience, yes, that's the thing with the chairs that rock back and forth and spray you with water and they jitter. And it's literally a roller coaster in a movie theater. Sounds cheesy, but with the right terrible movie, such as Flight Risk, it can be a life-changing cinematic experience. I don't mind if the 4DX people want to quote me and put that on a poster somewhere. I stand by it. It's amazing, even if the movie is not. But Boss Baby 5936 says, I thought the cinematography and Marky Mark's performance were great and entertaining. The plot was fine, but the really cringy dialogue brought the whole thing down. I disagree. I think it elevated it, Boss Baby, but also they never used his name in the trailers or marketing. It was just the director of Braveheart, Apocalypto, and Hacksaw Ridge, either because he didn't want to be too associated with it or because of his political endorsements. I imagine we are talking about, of course, Mel Gibson. That's a puzzlement. I don't know if he was embarrassed by by Flight Risk, the end product anyway, or if it was just the studio didn't want to, say Mel Gibson, the Academy Award winning director of Braveheart, Apocalypto, and Hacksaw Ridge. Seems like an odd play, especially because Hacksaw Ridge, and I don't know if Apocalypto was post controversy or not, but I know Hacksaw Ridge was, so he still had a name for himself. And Mel Gibson is going to be doing the high profile Passion of the Christ sequel coming out next year, so there'll be some anticipation behind that. So who knows? It's a mystery for the ages, Boss Baby. This is my favorite. I pulled this one up just because it's going to be a chance to pull up my high school French. Traduit en français, c'est mieux, which translates to a French translation will be better or the best. So I assume that you're not saying that The Exorcist needs to be translated in French, because I'm pretty sure over its 50-year history it has been, or if you're saying that the show in which I reviewed The Exorcist with Cole Rush for our Page to Screen series would have been better off being translated into French. Yes, I agree. I don't know exactly how to go about doing that, but if someone out there wants to translate the Kicking the Seat live streams or television shows, I need to do more than drink Starbucks. I need to actually get some food in me. I'll start there. But if anyone wants to translate the series, please feel free to do that. And let me know how you did it, because that sounds really cool. Speaking of pronunciations and accents, I didn't plan this, but it just kind of worked out that way. John A. Pro, or John A. Pro, or said, in talking about, well, let me just read the comment first, and then I'll try and pronounce the movie according to the way he thinks I should be pronouncing it. You pronounce both names so wrong. If you listen to the Johnny Cash great song for it, you will know it is pronounced Foss, as in boss, and Big Halsey, not Halsey. We were talking about Pat McDonald and I for our There's Nostalgia Like Nostalgia series. There's Nostalgia Like Nostalgia, Little Foss, and Big Halsey from 1970. Fun film. Underappreciated, I think, and underwatched, especially if you're for the Redford fans out there. But they do okay, John A. Pro, if you're watching this. Big Little Foss and Big Halsey. I'll let you be the judge. Okay. Speaking of Pat McDonald, There's nostalgia like nostalgia. We talked about Executive Action, a conspiracy thriller involving the Kennedy assassination, a recurring theme on that series. Pat's a big JFK conspiracy nut. Not to say he's a nut, but he loves that conspiracy, and I love talking to him about movies about that conspiracy because it's wild. Even with the recent quote unquote release of all the Kennedy documents, this mystery is going to go on for another 50 years, 60 years, whatever it's been. We're just never going to find out. But Executive Action from 1973 was a fun, wild movie. And I'll tell you, since we put up this show a few years ago now, I think that it's continued to garner a commentary and back and forth and dialogue in the comments. I could have put up several more comments from this show, some of which literally go on for paragraphs and paragraphs and have bona fide alphanumeric bullet points associated with them. But in the interest of time, I'll just leave you to discover that treasure for yourself. So let's see. I pulled up a cluster of comments here. Fun fact: Wes Craven titled Nightmare on Elm Street after the Kennedy assassination. I did not know that, but that's great. I assume you're talking specifically about Elm Street, that famous intersection. But yeah, very cool. Great film, fantastic. I don't remember much about Executive Action at this point because it's been a while, but maybe I agreed. And also, lastly, if you amalgamate fact and fiction, you get an unsatisfactory stew of action, narrative, or archive, and reconstructed drama. There's no real urgency in the main characters, the plotting of events, the suspense or lack of. Hitchcock found this out in filming The Wrong Man with Henry Fonda and Vera Miles. That's a blind spot for me in my Hitchcock. I gotta correct that. So thank you, John Harshman, and thank you, John Alucard, Joe 3 year. Where do the people come up with these names? And CWY Man 77. Not knocking the names, just I genuinely, if there's a story behind those names, and I assume there is, I'd like to hear it someday. Razorblade Mango talking about The Brutalist. I liked the first half to a certain degree, but the second half completely lost me. If this cynical, vacuous, overlong, and pretentious prattle is what passes for a masterpiece among the Hollywood elite, I'm glad I don't watch these award season movies anywhere near as much as I used to. Razorblade Mango, we're in simpatico here. In simpatico, we are simpatico here because I loved The Brutalist up until the intermission. And when it came back from the intermission, I thought that Brady Corbett had taken all of the goodwill, the patience, the creeping dread and mystery of the narrative and just said, oh, shoot, we got to fast forward through the rest of this. I'm going to put a bunch of weird, controversial things in here so people will talk about it. And it became a completely different movie and an absolute disgraceful mess. I went into that intermission on cloud nine, and I came out of the fully finished film regretting ever having watched it. That's a bit of an exaggeration, but that's kind of where my heart's at. So I feel you. Patrick Doherty, 4527, a regular, talking about Escape from Hammerland, the Two Faces of Dr. Jekyll from this year's Escape from Hammerland series, which has been a lot of fun. So Patrick said, glad you guys are back in Hammerland, even though you're planning your escape. I know, this is the big finale, the big year 5 conclusion. I think this film really gets a bit lost in the shuffle among the Hammer heavy hitters. But it definitely deserves more love. Yes. We've been looking at we're on our way out of Hammerland, looking at some of the overlooked films and some of the weird non-genre movies, or we're going to be doing it at least later in the year. But the Two Faces of Dr. Jekyll and our most recent episode on the Phantom of the Opera have been really unique takes on monsters that we think we've known, and doing it only in the way that Hammer can. And I think Two Faces of Dr. Jekyll is especially a standout because it's all done in performance, and it's very surprising. That check those out, and then check out the shows that we did about them. Shameless plug, but hey, that's what we're kind of here to do. All right, Spotlight India series. Madras Cafe, which we talked about last time on Don't Read the Comments, is one of the most requested movies that I've ever had on this channel. And for years. It seems like people have been saying, talk about Madras Cafe, do Madras Cafe. So I finally got Shashwat around to talking about this movie, which was, interesting to say the least. I think, very well done in some aspects, but not necessarily my cup of tea, and not as gripping as some of the other action films that we've talked about. But it was based on true events, and I think it was kind of educational for me in terms of the Sri Lankan conflict that went on, with India, and putting it in the context of a sort of Mission Impossible style action movie was entertaining and educational, as I mentioned. But I don't know. There's something about the movie overall that didn't quite shake out for me, at least as my recollection goes. But so we've got a few comments here clustered together again. Sujit Sarkar don't add unnecessary songs or funny scenes. If he's making serious movies, the no cringe funny scenes. Talking about the filmmaker here. I also saw his October movie, unusual type of love story when a boy loves a girl because she asked him about him before an accident. Very strong connection between two souls. I'll have to look up the director and then find out about this October movie, because he didn't give a title, but yeah, it sounds very interesting. I like that. And also, Deo Girl Yadav 8399 also says, "Oh man, you finally did it! Yes, after all these years, we finally talked about Madras Cafe." And then, yes, this movie is really fast. Everything happened in seconds. Sometimes I think Sujit Sarkar doesn't get producers. Otherwise, he is really good in directing historical movies. By the way, Sujit Sarkar directed Sardar Udham also, which I think that was a big surprise to me, because two very different approaches to historical drama. But yeah, I loved Sardar Udham, although I got taken to task a lot for that, for something I said on that show, which I won't repeat here. But yeah, it just speaks to my budding cultural sensibilities when it comes to Indian cinema. Evil Kitty 1994 says, careful of saying over and over as a time filler. On my review of On the Line I did with David Fowley, I believe, a number of years ago. I think you have a point. Back to Inland Empire, putting a pin in Lynch. Ron Bach 8291 says, how to demonstrate your complete ignorance in 30 seconds. Once again, I can't disagree, because, it's not the most flattering 30 seconds I've had on the internet, but I stand by it. I stand by my opinions on David Lynch, which are still being formed. But as of right now, Inland Empire, to me, it feels like, and the rigorous defense of this incomprehensible, overlong, terrible movie, and I said it and I stand by it. It feels like the nerds in high school rallying around something, because that is so obscure that the cool kids, the popular kids, don't get, because it's something that's theirs. It's something the kids who beat them up don't understand and they hate. So they're going to say, this is great art. And I say, no, it's not. It's really, really not. Just be quiet, Philistine, says Vi 9284. Also about my putting a pin in Lynch Inland Empire commentary. Maybe I should have saved that last mini rant for this comment, but no, I'm not going to be quiet. I'm not a Philistine either, for the record. Steve Davis 5704 says, on our Constantine episode, talking about the 20th anniversary of the Keanu Reeves John Constantine movie, and also kind of comparing it to the comics, which was a very fun episode. When I watched this with my oldest son, who was in his 20s, the depiction of Satan totally freaked him out. The concept of Satan looking just like somebody's grandpa still freaks him out sometimes. Well, Satan kind of freaks me out, but I'm not afraid, because, Jesus is my co-pilot. But I will say the Peter Stormare's portrayal of Satan in Constantine, I think, is one of the great villain performances, and certainly one of the greatest villain entrances in any movie. We'll be talking about Peter Stormare again later this week when we discuss Until Dawn, in which he appears. Suffice it to say, two very different calibers of performance and, frankly, film. This is from one of my early interviews with Armand White, an episode titled Make Criticism Great Again. This is from early on in my relationship with Armand, and he's since become not only a show regular, but I count him as a friend and a brilliant critic. I'm soapboxing here for those who might be new to the show or new to this Armand conversations. But if you know only Armand White as a troll who likes to rile people up by having hot takes on the internet, there's way more to him. And I recommend reading his criticism thoroughly, even if you don't agree with it. But this whole partnership kind of friendship started when I interviewed him for a book called The Press Gang with Matt Zoller's Heights and some other critics from their collected writings from back in like the 1980s, if I recall correctly. And then Armand put out a book called Make Spielberg Great Again, a collection of all of his essays and reviews, of Spielberg's entire filmography up to a certain point. Brilliant writing, very thoughtful, and the man cares about the movies and he knows a lot about the movies. So he has been a great educator, a teacher for me in terms of my education. So, and we'll talk about another one or two of his shows will be coming up in these comments. So we'll talk about Armand White again. But the cat 8513 said, this man was so ahead of his time exposing all the woke nonsense. Very important what he did for the culture, pushing back on it. In hindsight, it's clear, but at the time when we were all in it, it wasn't as much. Now, I'm trying to, as weird as this might sound, stay apolitical on this show, because I realize that there are people of all stripes watching this content. I have my own views, which I have shared more openly, perhaps in my conversations with Armand. I take your point, Cat 8513, and there seems to be kind of a course correction in Hollywood and pop culture in general, away from what you're referring to as the woke nonsense. And I can't say that I do not welcome it. Back to the Madras Cafe review that I did with Shashwat. This is a fun one. Almost 1 hour video. Make a little short video, man. 1 hour is really long to watch. Well, I'm sorry. Let's see. I'm going to try and say this. Akan Barat 1429. Well, that's what we do around here. We make hour-long videos. This video of me reading comments from the last several months might even go to an hour. I don't know. This live stream, I should say. But I will say, point taken. I'm of a couple of different minds here because, yes, you've got in the advent of TikTok and YouTube Shorts and God knows what else. Yes, short videos are very popular, and maybe my numbers would skyrocket way past 5,000 subscribers if I got more into the short form content. But I love talking about movies. I love getting into long conversations, deep conversations. Yes, even about David Lynch films, even if my opinions are completely off base, is what I love doing. So yeah, the hour-long videos are here to stay, and sometimes we creep up into the run times of the very movies we're discussing. So I understand if you're not your cup of tea, but I appreciate the comment and the concern, but we're sticking with it. Mildred Chester, Miss Chester, another longtime fan and participant in the show, says, I love crap from the 60s. This is in relation to Escape from Hammerland, the Phantom of the Opera, which I mentioned a little bit ago. I love crap from the 60s. As a boomer, I grew up with this garbage. I hope you don't stoop to reviews of 1970s movie of the week. Wow. Mr. Chester, I don't know if you think all Hammerland movies are garbage, and loving crap from the. I'm very confused by this comment because I can't tell if this is guilty pleasure kind of love or if you're being, ironic or anything. But the Hammer movies are not crap, and the Phantom of the Opera 62 is not garbage. It's just not garbage. It's a different take on the Phantom of the Opera, but in many ways, it's a bold take, a great take. I think one that should be re-released today and appreciated, or at least remade faithfully. I don't know if some of those sets would stand up, but early Hammer sets are the bomb, as Ben Affleck might have said at one point. Clara 7920 on the review of Magazine Dreams from a month ago says, really loved the review of this film. Hope you also review Sinners in April from Kugler. Well, Clara, as you hopefully have seen by now, and maybe even watched the video, I did review Sinners last week. It was the Kicking the Seat Wednesday live stream. As I said then, I'll repeat now, it is currently my favorite film of the year, and I don't know how it's going to get knocked off the pedestal. Fun fact, I read Armand White's review of Sinners in the National Review, and I haven't talked to him about it, but we are on polar opposite ends of the opinion spectrum on Sinners. But that again, I read his reasoning. I respect and understand it. I just don't agree. But that's criticism. So yeah, I reviewed Sinners, um, and loved it. So Clara, if you're watching this, what did you think of Sinners? What did you come away thinking on that one? Fun fact. Well, I know that the numbers aren't in for the entire weekend yet, but I read something yesterday, I think Box Office Mojo, but Sinners, usually when you have a big opening weekend, which it did last week, or any opening weekend really, there's a big drop in week 2 because there's new movies coming out and people want to go see the new stuff, and maybe they'll check out the previous week's release, but it's out with the old and in with the new. But this movie Sinners didn't have a giant drop. I think the report I read yesterday said they're estimated at a 10% drop, which is almost unheard of. Usually you hear stuff in the 50s, 60s, or in the case of Snow White, like 70. But yeah, great for Sinners. I'm glad people are going out to see it. Different demographics are going to see it. One report I read had said that more women are going to see it now because it's the ick of it just being a vampire, bloody action movie is kind of off of it. Sorry, I spoiled it. What kind of a movie it is, but it's much more than that. It's, as I've described it to my wife, and I think I said on the live stream, it is a romantic historical crime drama with vampires, in that order of importance. It's a bona fide amazing film, and I hope you liked it. And if you didn't like it, tell me that as well. I'm interested to hear those perspectives. Speaking of Snow White, Razorblade Mango again pops in to say, I don't know what's more triggering. Ian saying he prefers the live action Lion King to the animated film, or him not having seen Blue Velvet. See, David Lynch, I can't, it's thematic this episode. That latter crime needs to be remedied ASAP. Well, correction, Razorblade Mango. And I think I mentioned this. How did I get to talking about David Lynch in the Snow White episode? I don't remember. But I saw a little bit of Blue Velvet when I was 10. My parents rented it. But when The Gas Mask came out, they sent me upstairs, and I did not ever go back to it. So yeah, I do need to remedy that. I've heard it's great. That and Mulholland Drive, two big blind spots for Lynch for me, but haven't had time to do that. I'm too busy watching things like Until Dawn. What's wrong with me? Priorities. But yeah, thanks for chiming in. Speaking again of David Lynch, are you forgetting that it's literally his filmmaking style? Talking about Inland Empire. No, it's not his filmmaking style because he's made movies that are not like Inland Empire. He is not just deliberately obtuse guy. It's kind of like saying that the last handful of movies that Terrence Malick has made is literally his style, because that completely makes no room for movies like Badlands, which put him on the map, and I think is, from what I've seen of Malick's work, his best film. I loved The Elephant Man. If you want to try and put The Elephant Man next to Inland Empire and say these were made by the same person, I would not automatically believe you. So yeah, how's that? Another YouTube short. These things get me into trouble all the time. That's why I think I kind of stopped doing them. But Joshua Ryan Irwin said, can't just go around enacting vigilante justice. Isn't that what all superheroes do? I believe the talk, the point of that clip was the Donner cut of Superman 2 turns Supes into a bully. Talking about the kind of final scene in the diner. And I've actually been thinking about this comment sort of philosophically, and I won't get all into it because I'm still forming my opinions, but this one really stayed with me, and I'm not quite sure why. But are all superheroes vigilantes? I don't think so. I think Batman's kind of a vigilante because he'll go out and break criminals' legs and all of that stuff. But in the case of Superman in particular, a lot of times, and I know he's been around for a billion years, and there's been all these different incarnations of him in various different media. So I can't say that this is the definitive Superman MO, but the Superman I know and love, he'll capture criminals, and like in the Superman movies, he captures Lex Luthor and his sidekick Otis, and drops them in the middle of a prison yard. He brings people to the authorities. Him and Spider-Man are the kind of folks to like tie up the bad guys and leave a quippy note for the cops or something like that. So that's not true vigilante justice in the way that I conceptualize it, but that's also very different from Batman. So I don't think all superheroes do that. They're not all vigilantes, but I do take your point that they are operating outside of the law, which maybe that does. Ooh, maybe that does make them vigilantes. But what about Captain America? He's a superhero. He's also a government agent. I gotta think on that one some more. All right, here we go with the episode on the Sugarland Express, Steven Spielberg's very first theatrical feature film, which I reviewed with Armand White. Pardon me, I'm going to take another sip of my cherry latte thing. I can't believe there's candy in this. What is going on at Starbucks? Sugar's good, though. Purple Warlock said, since 1972, that's 53 years of film reviewing. Referring again, of course, to Armand White. By the way, highest possible recommendation for the Sugarland Express. If you haven't seen it, it was Steven Spielberg's first film. A lot of people think, oh, it was E.T. or Jaws was his first movie. No, he was making movies and TV before he, did the films that really put him on the map. But in 1974, right before Jaws, he did this movie, which I named the episode Bonnie and Clyde and Slide, because it's based on a true story of a criminal couple who kidnap a police officer and lead every other cop in Texas pretty much on this statewide chase as they're going to try and retrieve their daughter from the foster home that he was placed in while both parents were locked up. So it's a great movie. And William Atherton, again, we did a whole show on it. You can watch it from a few weeks ago. But William Atherton is phenomenal. He's a discovery in this movie. If you only know him, especially from movies like Real Genius, like Ghostbusters, where he plays the buttoned up, company man who's trying to squash the squares. He's the main, I guess, protagonist, but he's like a bank robber. He's the main guy, the main criminal in this movie, and it's quite a watch. Speaking of Slide, Michael Sachs, who played the cop that gets kidnapped, besides acting talent, has, from Wikipedia, a Bachelor of Arts in Social Relations from Harvard College and a Master of Science in Computer Science from Columbia University. He retired from the entertainment industry in 1984. His last role was in the black comedy film The House of God with Tim Matheson. Then he worked for Morgan Stanley and IBM. Sheesh, he is working. Maybe he was around at Columbia at the same time Armand got his master in criticism. Interesting thought. Who knows? But yeah, I think, sorry about the sheesh, Purple Warlock. If that is to imply that we were kind of disparaging, like, where did this guy go? Or, why do you never have a career again? People transition in and out of acting all the time. And I think what we were sort of lamenting in that conversation was he's so good in the Sugarland Express, and we didn't hear from him again in the way that we kind of assumed that he might, based on this kind of star-making performance, that we genuinely were fans and wish that he had gone on to do more. But if he decided to go a different path, more power to him. So excited to see Armand back, says Indie Phantoms of Cinema. This is one of the few early Spielberg films I've not seen. I think it's the only one I haven't seen up to a couple of the most recent. Well, Sugarland Express is available to watch. It's a long one, but a great one. And the shootout and the car dealership. I think I said it on the show, but yeah, it's like something out of No Country for Old Men, but like 30 years before that movie came out. Amazing. Purple Warlock also said, this is in relation to, I saw this when it happened, but you put up a comment and then deleted it, or YouTube deleted it or something, so you're kind of reposting it here. Deleted an old comment, but there's also the vacation movie genre, brother cousin of the road movie. Chevy Chase's vacation movies and Orlando Bloom's Elizabethtown. I've not watched Elizabethtown. Edit, Elizabethtown is not a vacation flick, meant road travel movie. In this movie with Armand, we kind of sidebarred into why does it seem like all, or at least most, road movies are crime movies of some kind. And it's an interesting conversation, but I saw this comment and I was like, that's right. Vacation, the whole Vacation franchise about people going on the road. So also the comedy Road Trip. Harold and Kumar Go to White Castle. Like, it's one of those things where you talk about it and then someone mentions something after the conversation's over and it just opens up this whole, like, of course. Elizabethtown is not a vacation flick. I maintain it's not a movie, it's a torture device. It is the one and only time I have had, maybe I had another one after this, but the one that stands out is certainly my first, a panic attack. A full-blown panic attack in a movie theater was watching Elizabethtown, because I have a strict no walkout policy for movies. And I wanted to leave so badly that I just couldn't. And I was freaking out, not making a scene or anything, but just like kind of gripping my chair and sweating and just like praying for death. But yeah, that was 20 years ago, I think. Maybe it's time for a revisit. I don't know. I'm not sure if I can put myself through that again. It's my own personal Ludovico technique. Back to the Lynch thing again. Liam, and there's like a whole little community here ganging up on me. This is great. Liam Callahan 495 says, I love it when someone so wrong speaks with such authority. Me too. And then Julian Smith 4987 says, lol, so mad. I love this movie. I'm mad that you love this movie too. Oh, wait, that's not what you meant. And then also says, so true. So are you agreeing with oh, I got it. I think this is kind of like out of order in terms of how they're posting. So I think Julian was agreeing with Liam about me speaking with authority and being wrong, and then adding, laugh out loud, so mad, I love this movie. Got it. I got it. Academia Giallo, The Strange Color of Your Body's Tears, a film that we talked about, I think it was last year. A movie that is a modern take on Giallo, which I really did not care for. I love Giallo. I love the entire genre. I love the conversations we've been having on Academia Giallo for years. You can check out that playlist down below. It's fun. Those guys are the best. The crew that I have on there. Mike Frame says, take the film Possession that requires and stimulates interpretation, but it actually works amazingly, even if it's impenetrable. This one didn't even try to provide any compelling fodder for interpretation. I found another Giallo homage, The Editor, to be equally visually great, but also equally thin on plot, if for the opposite reason of being overblown instead of blowing in the wind. The best Neo Giallo I have seen was Eyes of Crystal. Well, Mike Frame, once again, wavelengths aligned. I didn't like this movie, and The Editor, I think, as a sort of parody of Giallo, was visually and artistically way better than it had any right to be. But narratively, it was kind of like, eh. And I'm not sure if you're aware of this, Mike. We actually reviewed it earlier this month. It's sort of our late April Fool's episode of Academia Giallo. So check that one out. You know what? I got to reassess The Editor, because I think I had some problems with it, but I loved it overall. Yeah, you see, this is the problem. The weeks are so long and so involved. There's so many movies involved in them. Sometimes I don't remember what I honestly thought of a movie that I watched 3 weeks ago. So, yeah, but the only reason I'm saying this is because I think I put The Editor Blu-ray on my wish list on Amazon. So I must have thought more highly of it, or higher of it. I don't know, that I'm thinking of right now. But yeah, it's weird because I'm remembering the visual artistry of it and the flaws that I had with the movie, but my overall take is kind of in there somewhere. I'm assuming I thought pretty highly of it. Let's see. And is that it? Have we come to the end of our slides? Yes, we have. So what I'm going to do is exit out of this, come back, full screen again. So yeah. All right. Hey, we've got another comment from Jay Cook. Hey, Jay. I think that might be Jeremy. If I'm thinking of the right person, I usually see your full name. And if it's not, I know 2 J Cooks. But congrats on 5K, Ian. I really enjoy the weekly roundtables, even for movies I've not seen. I'm waiting on the Sinners discussion, though, until I see the movie this week. Cheers. Looking forward to more. Well, Jay, thank you very much. And yes, definitely thank you for avoiding the Sinners conversation, because we get into spoilers. Well, we do a little detour to talk about some other things, but we get into spoilers right away when we're talking about that movie, because you can't not. But yeah, thank you for the congrats. And speaking of congrats, well, I'm going to take a celebratory sip. Yeah, coffee should not have candy in it. But speaking of congrats, I'm going to pat myself on the back for 5,000 subscribers here on YouTube. But I could not have done it on my own. I didn't, in fact, do it on my own. It's not only thanks to viewers slash listeners like you who continue to tune in, whether it's every episode or every week or just dropping by every once in a while, or if you responded to the kind of the promotional campaigns that I've been doing since the beginning of the year, kind of like these subscriber drivey things. And you're like, "Oh, I'll just subscribe to it. Maybe I'll watch it. Maybe I won't." Whatever the case, I definitely appreciate you tuning in and watching us discuss movies on this little sliver of the internet, as my friend Mark Krawcheck likes to describe it. But speaking of Mark, speaking of the rest of Earth's mightiest critics, too many of them to name. But I'll start with a few. Let's see: Katie, Jeff, David, Don, Mark, Annie, Mike, Will, the Academia Giallo crew, uh, Pat McDonald from Nostalgia Like Nostalgia, Sajua of Indie Scene, and all the Cole from Page to Screen, and also Late Screening, which we've got to get back on those. I owe Cole a phone call. It's way, way, way overdue. But and the millions of other series that I've done on this show, in addition to all the interview guests, and just people who've participated in any way, whether as a panelist or helping out with show ideas. I couldn't do this on my own. The last 40 minutes are proof as to why I don't have a channel where I just talk into a camera spontaneously as my main drive, because I thrive on conversation. I think I'm okay at this, but can you imagine 5,000 people subscribing to this on a regular basis? I can't. Shudder to think. But all kidding aside, it is a team effort. And most of the people that I mentioned either have websites or podcasts or other kinds of shows that I leave links in every episode of these series to their stuff. I really hope that you are taking to heart to go and find them and subscribe to them and support their content as well. Because these roundtables are they're a movie education for me. I'm a bona fide film critic, as they say, a member of the Chicago Film Critics Association, but that doesn't mean that I know everything about movies, as evidenced by the comments that we just went through here, particularly about David Lynch. But so yes, I've been fortunate enough to find a group of friends who have not only made me or allowed me to be their friend, but to mentor me, to help shape my worldview, my cinematic view, my overall view of the arts. And I am forever grateful. You might be thinking, why is this guy giving like an Oscar speech for 5,000 YouTube subscribers? It's because it's a huge milestone for me. This time last year, there's no way I thought we would be here, and we're only going up. Thanks in large part to some help from Sujiwa, who I mentioned, who turned me on to the idea of doing promotions and kind of subscriber outreach drives to get people from all over the world to give the channel a shot. And it's worked out, because a lot of you or a lot of people have gotten, hey, check out this channel, check out these videos. Now that's one thing, but it's quite another to say, I'm going to subscribe to this channel and follow along. So we've gained some, we've lost some, but overall we've crossed that big 5K mark. And it's quite an accomplishment, and we're going to keep going. We're not going to stop. Well, until you tell us, hey, the show's over, just stop. Everyone unsubscribes, and again, I get the hint. But no, as I said before, in the comment about why are your conversations an hour long or more, it's because I love talking about movies, and I love talking about them with you. I love interacting with comments on live streams, and otherwise, as you can see, we've got a whole series dedicated to reading the comments, even though it's called Don't Read the Comments, because that's the advice Mark gave me, as far as, if you want to keep your sanity and you want to feel good about what you do, don't read the comments. I admit some of them get a little hurtful, but that's why I do it all the time. You got to build up that thick skin, and also take the criticism to heart and say, hey, maybe there is room for me to improve here. Maybe I do say, a little bit too much, or work on my uhs or my ums or the placeholder words, that kind of thing. So I'm always learning. I'm learning from many different people, from the movies I watch to the filmmakers and creators that I interview, to the friends and panelists that we have on every week talking about movies, to you, the viewers and the readers and the commenters. So yes, it's definitely a two-way street. I hope I provide something value to your lives, or at least give you something to think about. Even if that something to think about is this guy knows nothing about what he's talking, especially when it comes to David Lynch. So with that, I will say that coming up, if you want to see more live content, you can tune in this coming Wednesday. That is April 20. No, wait, no, I'm going to get this right. I'm going to get this right. Is that April 30th? Yeah, I should know this. Yep. Wednesday, April 30th, 8:30 p.m., doing a half hour later. But 8:30 p.m. Central, we're going to be live talking about Until Dawn. I think I called it Until Dark earlier, but it's Until Dawn, the latest horror movie / latest video game adaptation. I had no idea, but we're going to get into it with at least one of Earth's mightiest critics, and it's going to be a discussion. Also, tomorrow, speaking of Sujiwa, there's going to be a new episode of Indie Scene coming out, in which Sujiwa and I talk with Jeff York of The Establishing Shot. He's coming on the show. I think this is the first time that they've actually been on a panel together. I don't know if that's the case. I could be wrong. But yeah, it's going to be fun. We'll be talking about Indecent Proposal from 1993. How is a Paramount motion picture starring Woody Harrelson, Demi Moore, and Robert Redford, why is that on Indie Scene? Well, you'll find out. And frankly, so will I, because that conversation hasn't happened yet. But it's happening tonight, and it'll be up tomorrow. So yeah, thank you. And thanks again for all the viewership, the subscriptionship, the criticism, and the praise. And if you're watching this and you're not subscribed, please click the little bell for notifications, like, subscribe, all that stuff. Tell your friends. And until next time, whenever that is, whatever that is, thank you from the bottom of my heart very much, and take care. And now I'm going to figure out how to end the stream for real this time. Maybe. I don't know. I feel like I just started.